Put too much pressure on Tyler Perry. You know what I mean? He ain't put nobody on. The people that been in his productions, they not famous. All of them can walk through the mall without security.
You think you know Hollywood. You think talent wins. You think hard work pays off. But what if everything you believed was just a story told to keep you watching? Tonight, the whispers grow louder. The names get repeated quietly, almost nervously. And at the center of it all is a name that refuses to fit the fairy tale. The kind of story the media sells, wrapped in fame and bright lights while the real story hides in the shadows. Teyana Taylor and the man many say holds the cards behind the curtain, Tyler Perry. This is not about gossip, and it is not about random rumors drifting across social media. It is about patterns, about the way Hollywood allegedly moves and how the system rewards compliance while punishing resistance. According to people close to Katt Williams, what we see on the surface may only be a cover. Relationships are not always personal. Rebounds are not always emotional. And silence may be the most powerful currency in the business. The world watched a celebrity fall in love, build a family, and then slowly watch it collapse. But insiders claim the heartbreak was not purely personal. They suggest it was strategy, a split caused by paths that no longer aligned. Teyana Taylor's life, her choices, and even her public image are now examined like chess pieces on a board she may not have fully controlled. Williams has allegedly hinted that some of these moves were not about romance or timing, but about leverage and power. Who gets lifted, who gets protected, and who is quietly pushed aside. In this game, fame does not always mean freedom, and visibility does not guarantee influence. One wrong step, one emotional miscalculation, and the system shifts, leaving you exposed. The story grows more complicated when new faces appear, bringing opportunity, attention, and quiet doors opening. Luck, timing, or careful positioning. Some insiders say Williams tried to hint at deeper forces shaping every move behind the scenes today.
Because P. Diddy be wanting the body, and you gotta tell him no. You got to tell him no. I did.
Some of these relationships were framed less like love stories and more like strategic alignments. Hollywood, they claim, does not just watch talent, it tests it. The ones who play by the rules survive. The ones who question those rules slowly disappear from the conversation, quietly replaced by someone else willing to move in silence. Then comes Tyler Perry, a name that does not simply represent a person, but a system, a platform, a machine of influence. According to what Katt Williams has hinted, it is not about being good or bad. It is about power, optics, and timing. If you are aligned with the system, you move forward. If not, you move sideways, or you vanish from the radar entirely. Teyana Taylor's choices after heartbreak, her rebounds, and her public moves have all allegedly pointed to this larger game being played behind closed doors in meetings no one outside the industry ever sees. Meanwhile, the public watches closely, waiting for statements, for resistance, for someone to finally draw a line. Instead, the system appears to reward quiet focus, constant momentum, visibility, and compliance. Allegedly, it is a world where principles sometimes lose while perks often win. Katt Williams' warnings, subtle but powerful, suggest that understanding this system is not just about following celebrity headlines. It is about recognizing patterns, questioning motives, and realizing that fame may look like a ladder, but the steps are not always what they seem. In Hollywood, success is not always what it appears to be. And now, Katt Williams is allegedly pulling back the curtain, revealing a world where strategy, leverage, and timing matter more than emotions. Even the most public relationships, dramatic breakups, and unexpected rebounds may simply be pieces of a much larger game. Hollywood watched quietly, but the air was electric. On the surface, everything looked flawless. Publicly, the story appeared to be simple mentorship. But behind the scenes, insiders say the truth may have been far more complicated.
She is showing me everything that she's been able to do. It's really phenomenal. This woman, you know, when I called her up to do the movie, she was like, "Are you sure?" Yeah, I think I did. But she killed it. You'll see what I mean. You will see what I...
Opportunity followed. Industry voices praised Tyler Perry for personally welcoming Teyana Taylor into the system. She's phenomenal, they said, a force of talent and professionalism. Publicly, it looked like recognition, a powerful figure supporting a rising star. But Katt Williams allegedly suggested that praise like this can sometimes hide something deeper. When power gives someone visibility during their most vulnerable moment, it can create an invisible bond, one that is never written down, yet clearly felt. In Hollywood, those invisible bonds can become the most powerful forces of all. According to sources who have spoken about Williams' comments, the situation was never just about talent. Tyler Perry, they claim, is not only a filmmaker. He represents a full system, infrastructure, opportunity, and influence wrapped into one platform with rules that are rarely spoken aloud. The logic, insiders say, is simple. Stay aligned with the machine and it moves you forward. Step outside the boundaries, and the consequences can appear quietly. Opportunities slow down. Doors close. Conversations shift elsewhere. Teyana, according to these interpretations, did not walk in blindly. This was not simply free access to opportunity. Allegedly, it was leverage exchanged for visibility, stability traded for quiet cooperation. In this view, there are no clear villains or heroes, just a system operating exactly as systems tend to operate. But the story did not stay quiet for long. Another voice entered the conversation, one Hollywood rarely ignores. Jaguar Wright, known for speaking openly about industry dynamics others avoid discussing, began raising questions that made some insiders uneasy. Her comments suggested that Tyler Perry's influence was not only about power but also about controversy. Hollywood can usually ignore rumors. What it struggles to ignore are repeating patterns that refuse to disappear. Suddenly, the discussion was no longer only about Teyana Taylor's career. It became part of a broader conversation about how the industry operates, particularly when it comes to visibility, influence, and the complicated positions some artists find themselves navigating.
It happened to Black Hollywood, and he did it by using stupid, ignorant, so-called Christian to fund all of his very homosexual behavior. He ain't
strategically constrained. That is how some insiders describe the situation. Katt Williams allegedly pointed to this dynamic many times. According to his perspective, the system does not reward innocence. It rewards adaptation. The tragedy, he suggested, is not that people learn to play the game. The tragedy is that the game rarely allows anyone to leave it. Teyana Taylor, they claim, was applauded, elevated, and protected. Yet that support, according to critics of the industry, always exists within the rules of the machine. Momentum after controversy rarely appears by accident. Doors remain open only when someone with power decides that your story still carries value for the system. Once someone becomes part of that system, the rules quietly change. Silence is no longer empty. Silence becomes containment. Insiders often claim that recovery in Hollywood comes with invisible terms. These terms are not written into contracts, but they are understood by everyone involved. Public appearances become polished. Messaging becomes controlled. Emotional reactions are avoided. No messy clarifications, no spontaneous outbursts. Hollywood tends to reward discipline rather than defiance. Every step forward, every project, every public appearance, every opportunity can appear carefully managed. Observers sometimes notice how smoothly careers move forward even after moments of controversy, and that raises questions. In an industry built on power and narrative, momentum after criticism is rarely random. Power rarely destroys talent. Instead, it absorbs it. Once absorbed, the individual must adapt or risk being quietly pushed aside. At this stage, Tyler Perry's influence is often described differently by critics of the system. Not louder, not heroic, and not necessarily villainous. Instead, they describe it as part of a structure that expects alignment. Elevation in Hollywood, some say, often comes with unspoken obligations. Breaking those expectations does not always lead to public conflict. More often, it leads to silence. The phone simply stops ringing. Invitations stop appearing. Emotional moments in celebrity life are often reframed as marketing arcs. Pain becomes growth. Trauma becomes resilience. Struggles become carefully packaged stories of strength. Industry observers have long argued that Black women in entertainment face particular expectations within this structure. They are often expected to endure pressure, adapt to circumstances, and remain graceful while carrying narratives they did not fully create. Speaking too loudly about the system can lead to labels such as difficult or unstable. Remaining quiet, on the other hand, can lead to continued opportunities, but always on the system's terms. Critics argue that this is where suppression sometimes backfires. Audiences begin noticing patterns. Praise begins to feel rehearsed. Success appears unusually smooth after moments of controversy, and that can lead to suspicion. Suspicion is much harder to control than headlines. By this point, Teyana Taylor's story, according to observers, begins to resemble a courtroom without a judge. On one side there are polished interviews, awards, and public appearances. On the other side are patterns, timing, silence, and questions that never receive direct answers. There may be no concrete evidence, but sometimes the pattern itself unsettles people. Hollywood rarely collapses because of proof. It often struggles when doubt refuses to disappear. That is where the cost of survival may become most visible. Not in money, fame, or opportunity, but in autonomy. One decision at a time. One compromise framed as opportunity. One silence justified as professionalism. This, many critics say, is how the game works. And the deeper someone moves into the system, the tighter its structure becomes. Eventually, the applause can start to feel rehearsed. Praise sounds strategic. Every project, every award, every public appearance looks carefully positioned. Success becomes something that must be maintained rather than simply earned. Control becomes invisible, but still recognizable. The spotlight narrows. Choices become more limited, even when life appears full of opportunities. The price of staying visible becomes clear. Do not disrupt the narrative. Do not contradict the platform. Do not reopen past controversies. Inside the system, growth sometimes stops being the primary goal. Maintenance becomes everything. And within that maintenance, autonomy may slowly be traded for survival. Observers say this is often the stage where personal identity begins to blur with public image. Private truth becomes secondary to public narrative. Emotional experiences are processed strategically. Pain becomes a tool. Healing becomes branding. Trauma becomes a carefully edited story designed for public consumption. For many Black women in entertainment, critics say, the expectations remain the same. Endurance, grace, and professionalism at all times. Speak out, and risk being labeled difficult. Stay silent, and continue surviving, though perhaps at a personal cost. Over time, silence itself can become policy. When rewards become tied to quiet obedience, the system naturally sustains itself. Stories rarely end with dramatic explosions. More often, they end with absorption. The narrative closes around the individual like a cage, polished, luxurious, and invisible. From the outside, it looks like success. From the inside, some say, it may feel like restraint. Eventually the public moves on, attention shifts elsewhere, and the system continues operating exactly as before. The person at the center of the story faces a choice: keep everything, or risk losing it all by speaking openly. Some observers believe Teyana Taylor may stand near that point today, not because of failure or lack of talent, but because survival in Hollywood has always carried a price. The spotlight remains bright. The machine keeps moving. And the silence often feels deliberate. This story is not simply about one film, one platform, or one relationship. It is about how influence circulates, how silence can become valuable, and how survival itself is sometimes marketed as success. The real question may not be whether every allegation is true. The deeper question is whether the system allows the truth to matter at all. Some games do not produce winners. They produce survivors. And survival inside a system built on leverage almost always comes with a cost. If this story feels familiar, that may be because similar stories have appeared before, different names, similar patterns, lessons learned too late. So watch carefully. Question the patterns. Think about the cost of silence. If you enjoyed this video and want more deep, dramatic insights into Hollywood's hidden dynamics, make sure to like, subscribe, and share. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Who do you believe really holds the power? Who survives? And who quietly disappears? Stay tuned, because in this game, the story rarely ends.